Cereal talks.
Ben,
it's where we talk.
I know
and
that
we
you're confused because we don't have any cereal.
Uh-huh.
And I would be sorry, but I'm not, because I brought you something I know you're going to love. And
I'm ready.
It is meatloaf!
Wow. Thank you.
Meatloaf!
You know, because I love you and you're delicious all around, I also brought you something.
What did you bring me?
Fried chicken.
Fried chicken! Oh, well, I also brought you something to drink, and it is Starbucks coffee!
Thank you. I also have a beverage of refreshment
What
for
do
you.
you have? What is
Red
it?
Kool-Aid!
Oh! Okay, I don't drink Kool-Aid at all.
I hate meatloaf.
But look,
Can we
all
say that?
white people like meatloaf. It's just a given.
That's a lie. Meatloaf is disgusting.
Well, I don't like red Kool-Aid.
Okay, why don't you try dipping your fried chicken in and see if it makes it taste better?
What's up, y'all? This is Cereal Talks with Ben and Josh. And no, we are not racist. We are actually talking about racism, prejudice, and how to change the world today. And Ben here is going to be talking with me, asking me some questions as a person of color, as a man who has grown up in America, and what my opinions are on what's going on today. And the point of Cereal Talks is to give you a different perspective than what you're already hearing about culture. It is to give you a biblical perspective on what you're seeing happen in culture today. So many of you have seen, and many of you have posted. If you like Kool-Aid,
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why does it smell like Gatorade?
Maybe it is. I told you I don't drink Kool-Aid. I told
So
you.
you rigged your own intro with some red, fruit punch Gatorade.
Yes, it is. And to be fair, I was having a hard time finding the Kool-Aid and didn't want to take up the time. That's how much. Do you even drink coffee?
No.
Can I have it?
Sure.
Because I love Starbucks.
Can't drink coffee. Makes my tum-tum hurt. You know when there's a real movie that comes out and then they make a cheap B-movie version of it? It's like, there's a new Star Wars movie. There's also a new Star Wars movie. It just came out.
It's like the Russian Avengers.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Wait, can you put a clip of that in? Of Bear Man?
Many of you have made it clear. Many of you have hashtagged. Many of you have done all the things that have been asked of you to state that Black Lives Matter and all those kind of things, and you're stating your solidarity about the movement. While some of you may have the opinion of all lives matter, and may have stated that. And so today, at the end of the show, we're going to be talking about which one is it. Is it Black Lives Matter? Is it all lives matter? What does the Bible say? Let's jump into this thing.
What are your thoughts on the riots and protests taking place across America?
Protesting, I think you would agree, is American.
Yes.
It's an American right. I do believe that it does bring awareness to issues people would not normally think about. Mm-hmm. And I do think that has happened now, that the protesting has brought awareness to certain issues of race and prejudice and things like that were kind of just swept under the rug for a while, but now they're kind of being brought back out. And it's not that I think that we were back in the days of Jim Crow and stuff like that. I just think that there's always room for progress, and it's given us the ability to progress. Now, the rioting, I feel like there's two things there. One, I feel like it's unhelpful in terms of you're hurting yourself. You're hurting your own community where you're going to live. Now, again, most of the people doing the rioting, or at least starting the riots, are not from those communities. They're not part of the protesters. Mm-hmm. They're there to cause problems. Even where we live, when you watch the live stream of people that were rioting and throwing stuff. It's like, who are these guys? They're not even, they don't have signs. They're not yelling anything about like Black Lives Matter. They're not doing anything to promote the cause. They're just like chucking rocks at cops and running. Like, what are you doing? Martin Luther King said something along the lines of, riots are the voice of the unheard. Okay? Meaning that when people feel like what they're trying to say isn't getting out, then they protest and they end up rioting because they feel like nothing is happening and they're angry. That being said, I do feel like one thing we don't think about enough is the trauma that has happened to the Black community over a long period of time. Okay? So, if we start like, when slaves first arrived in America, all the way through, when you think about the fact that we are where we are now, it's pretty incredible. Because the civil rights movement was the 50s, 60s, 70s. That wasn't that long ago. You know what I mean? So like the rights and the abilities that we have now are fairly new. When you think about that, even in the 80s, a lot of racial stuff was still happening. Even in the 90s, a lot of racial stuff was still happening. So like the progress that we've made in 2020 up to 2020 is phenomenal. That's why I think this is so crazy that it's being talked about the way it is because where we are now is phenomenal in this short period of time. So there's been a considerable amount of trauma that has happened. And I think what's happening is when you don't get healed, you will respond out of trauma. Okay? And so I think a lot of people haven't healed and haven't moved forward. And so they're responding out of trauma now. And this is the beautiful thing I'd say about Jesus, is that Jesus, no matter who you are, has the ability to heal you, no matter what your struggle has been. I want to say this to teenagers, if you're watching this, that if you've been through any abuse, any sort of thing where somebody has hurt you and you feel angry about it, and I'm not saying that what they did was right, I'm not saying that the history of things is right, but it is the history of things, and Jesus has the ability to heal you so that you don't have to live out of trauma. And you and I have talked about this before, but racism is when somebody believes that they are superior because of their race, or that somebody is inferior because of their race.
Right.
Okay? I would say that the majority of America does not operate out of a feeling of I'm superior because this and you're inferior because you're that. I don't think that's the majority of America. Do I think racism is still in America? Yes. Do I think there's pockets of places in our country where you'll see it in cities and maybe even states more so than others? Yes. But do I think that that is at the level that the media is trying to make us think? No, I don't. Prejudice is the prejudgment of something or someone without facts to back it up.
Yeah.
All right? And this is where I think most of people lie. Prejudice is, and it's going to sound weird, prejudice is necessary for survival. Okay? Now, here's why. Before you turn it off, here's why. Prejudice gives you the ability to categorize something in your brain that you don't know anything about. And for safety reasons, we approach things, right? You may see somebody that looks kind of shady, and you automatically go, that person looks shady, but you know nothing about them. You know nothing about who they are, their character. They could be the greatest person on earth, but because of how they look, you give them a category because it allows you to process how you should interact with this person.
Interesting.
Once you get to know them on a one-on-one level, you may find out they're the greatest, funniest, most giving and generous person you ever met. They just dress kind of sketchy. You know what I mean? And so I believe that most of us have a perspective about other people, even other races, that we've picked up through the lens of, ready for it? The media. The media. The same people that are pushing this whole narrative, the same people that are making this whole thing what it is, and the same people that are going on there and saying, it's our fault, we're sorry. Those same people are the ones that are making movies where 7 times out of 10, a black man is seen as ghetto, as intimidating, as a criminal, as... You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
7 times out of 10, that's what a black man is. And so the idea, because I heard this one pastor say, he said, there is a narrative in America that black men are dangerous. Not black, gang members, not black, rappers, not black this, not black that. Black men are dangerous. But that narrative is pushed by the media in the movies that you watch. Go and watch movies with black. Very rarely are they businessmen. Very rarely do they know how to speak proper English. Very rarely do. Most of the time, now it's better now for black men. For black women, I would say 9 times out of 10. Now these numbers I'm just kind of pulling out of thinking about movies that I watched. 9 times out of 10, she's loud, she's got an attitude, and she's kind of aggressive. Very rarely is she well-spoken. Is she just strong? Is she, you know what I mean? Like Mrs. Huxtable from the Cosby Show. Like, she was a strong black woman that had that, she had that thing about her that was like, okay, she means business. But she wasn't ghetto.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But that's what TV and the media are pushing the narrative. So when somebody who is white interacts with someone they don't know who is black, their prejudice is that's what they are.
Yeah. Because
that's what they're fed. It doesn't mean they're racist. It doesn't mean that they think that they're better than that person because I'm white. It means that they have an expectation of what this is going to look like when we interact. Point in case. Pit bulls. Most people, when they see a pit bull, will go, that's a dangerous dog.
Yeah.
But if you look how pit bulls are portrayed in the media, it's constantly, they're used as guard dogs, as the dogs that are in the junkyards. They're the ones that, carried around and the Russian mob guy has, or the gang member has, and he has these bulldogs, these pit bulls. But pit bulls used to be used as nannies for little kids. If the media were to make a movie about a dog that was just the greatest dog ever and went around saving kids' lives, and they used a pit bull, right? It would start changing the narrative of what people thought about pit bulls when they saw them on the street.
When I hear pit bull, it makes me think really fresh suits and...
Mr. Worldwide!
Most people, I would say, in America are not racist. And here's a point in case. Right now, and here's where I feel like, again, America is kind of overblowing where we're at as Americans. Okay? Because as a black man, I do not feel like I have to walk down the street and get in the street instead of walking on the sidewalk with a white man. I don't feel like I can't look a white man in the eyes and I can't do this, and I have to say he can talk to me any way he wants to, and he can do that. This is not that. This is not what America is. Mm-hmm. And nobody should. I feel like that's what they're making it seem like it is right now. Mm-hmm. And it's not. Right? Yeah, I mean, the fact that you and I are sitting here talking here like this, the fact that you and I work together all the time, and we are, we are best friends, and we are best friends, right?
Yeah. Well, how long
the fact that I think you're my best friend,
usually
but you don't think
my best friend cutoff is at least 13 years of knowing someone. Are we there yet?
I don't. Maybe.
Hey, you know what? Hey. Welcome to the best friend club.
Hey, best friend. Our kids are friends. This isn't happening, and they're making it seem like that's the state of America right now, and I just don't think it is. And also, there's all these conversations, kind of like we're having, right, that are happening, and in this moment, everyone is bringing out their racist stories.
Yeah.
Okay? So you have people that are giving examples of when they've experienced racism. My grandma's dad was a sharecropper. Okay? So, he lived in a racist America.
Yeah.
The idea that we have racist stories now, where we encounter racist moments versus just live in constant state of racism, shows that we're in a completely different state in America. People will always be people. There will always be stupid people. There will always be people that are ignorant and choose to live in ignorance and so forth. But that is not the state that we are in right now as a country. We are in a country where I would say the majority of people may not understand each other, but they don't think they're better than you because I'm white or I'm black. Okay? Some people do. But I would say that's not the state. The other thing is stereotyping. Stereotyping is giving a generalization about all people based on certain things. All black people like fried chicken. All white people like meatloaf, Kool-Aid,
Gatorade,
Starbucks,
Gatorade.
Come on, give it to me.
No, you can't have it.
So I don't think that America is racist in itself, but I will not deny that there are people that are racist. But if we don't diagnose it correctly, you will get the impression that America is racist, and you will lose your ability to move forward in a world. Especially my young black men and women who are watching, if you think America is racist when it's not, you will lose your ability to move forward in the world because you think it's already against you, and you have more ability to move forward now than we ever have in the history of America. You can move forward now, and I encourage you, let's not live as victims. Let's move forward and be overcomers.
What are your thoughts on systemic racism real? ? Look, man, I'm just reading the question. What are your thoughts on systemic racism, and is it real in America?
I think so. You have two thoughts. You have systemic racism is keeping black people down. Then you have this other school of thought that goes, there is no systemic...
Stemesic racism.
Yeah, exactly.
Systemic and stemesic.
Yes, so it's the opposite, mestistic.
If you or a loved one was diagnosed with mesothelioma...
So you have this other school of thought that's going, there is no such thing as systemic racism. And I would say most things, when you're so polar, are somewhere in the middle.
When we say systemic racism, do you mean like it's passed down from generation to generation? Like, is that, like, when people refer to systemic racism, is that what they mean?
Well, see, I think
like, my grandpa was racist, so my dad was racist, so I'm a racist, so my kid will be a racist.
I think that they are saying that the system in which we live our lives is racist.
Is, like, rigged to be somewhat racist?
Yes.
Okay.
And I would say that it's kind of a weird thing, and it's probably somewhere in the middle. That there is a level of it, but probably not to the degree they're saying. And there's more than what they're saying.
I'm sorry, this meatloaf smells so disgusting.
Why you give it to me?
I keep getting whiffs of it.
I don't like meatloaf. Again, the bigger problem, I believe, is the perception problem.
Yeah.
I believe that the bigger problem that we face is not the system, but it is the way that black men and women are perceived by society, again, mainly because of the media and how it's been portrayed by the media.
Right.
And so here's a case in point. My friend and I, when I was in high school, he was Mexican and black. I'm white and black. And this guy came up to us. He was fully white, 100%, blonde hair, all that good stuff. And he would wear super baggy pants. Back in the day, that was still the style. He would wear super baggy pants. He would wear shirts that would say, it's a black thing you wouldn't understand. He would wear Tupac shirts.
FUBU.
Yes, FUBU, all of that. I have FUBU shirt.
Fat Farm shoes?
That wasn't quite as big yet. But I remember one time he came up to us and he goes, I'm blacker than both of y'all. Right? And he had this, kind of ghetto Ebonics way that he would talk, which I don't speak that way. But his point in saying that was, black people, what makes you black is this persona.
The way you dress.
The way you dress,
talk.
the way you talk, the way you do this and that and the other. That is more ghetto. And his point was, because I'm ghettoer than you, I'm blacker than you. And he wasn't thinking about it that way, but that's actually what the statement is.
Yeah.
Because that's what is portrayed, is that black people are ghetto most of the time in the media.
Right.
The problem with that is when you look at Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, Rosa Parks, any of these people, they weren't ghetto. They had fantastic vocabularies. They had the ability to speak and dress in ways that were like, listen, I'm a respectable human being. Now, I'm not saying in order to be respectable, you have to have, a suit and a tie and da-da-da. That was just what they wore back then.
Yeah.
My point being
the way you carry yourself.
The way you carry yourself tells a lot of people a lot about you. And because of this perception of what black people are like, it gives people the ability to prejudge you about your character. And I think the perception needs to be changed. That they need to start showing black people as respectful, hard workers, smart, builders of society in the media, and stop having them be ignorant and ghetto and attitudes and intimidating, so that people can actually start seeing who really black people are. And guess what? You're gonna have bad people, and you're gonna have ghetto people in all sorts of society. In every race, you're gonna have people that are going to go there. But why is it that black people, those are the ones that everybody looks at and like, that's the representation of that community, right? Nobody does that with white people. Nobody's like, the representation of white people is this. Asian community don't do that. To the media is not putting Ben Carson out there. The media is not putting, the Surgeon General out there until we had a coronavirus.
Yeah.
The Surgeon General wasn't out there like, hey guys, look at this fantastic example of Black America.
Yeah, because and it's like Ben Carson is the achievements he made in medicine are world renowned.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But that's not who we're putting out there. And so I think worse than systemic racism is the perception problem. And I blame the media.
The final question. Is it Black Lives or All Lives Matter?
Okay, so this is the one that we said we were going to answer. Is it Black Lives Matter or All Lives Matter?
You're going to answer this in one sentence, right?
No. It's going to take more.
Okay.
Okay, no, I can't. Ready? Do it again. I believe that the statement should be
I'm terrible.
Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. And I'm sure I'm not the first one to say that, but I think that's the direction that we need to be heading with this. Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. John 3:16 says that for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son. He did not differentiate between who he was loving. It was the entire world that God is loving. In Revelations 5:9, it talks about how in heaven that people from every single nation, every race, every ethnicity are going to be in heaven praising God. In Galatians 3:28, it talks about in Christ there's not Jews and Greeks and different races, but in God we are one. Now it's not saying that God doesn't see it. It's saying that we stop looking at ourselves as separate and start looking at ourselves as people that come together and bring who we are together. We have to understand that Black Lives Matter because all lives matter. And here's my point. I want us to start seeing through the eyes of love.
Yeah. Through
the eyes of God's love. Not the world's love, because the world's love changes and switches. But see, God's love doesn't say, his love is forgiveness.
Yeah.
Right? So right now we see some strange things happening. We see senators kneeling and saying they're sorry for things that they never did. Things that they never and me as a black man, I'm going, I don't want you to do that. I just want to be friends. I just want to be able to have a conversation. Ben, one of the things I appreciate the most about our relationship is that we dialogue about the differences and questions, and we have conversations, and I believe we both come out better and knowing more about each other because of it.
Yeah.
And you're willing to ask me questions that you may get, and he'll sound like, I don't know if this sounds weird or sounds silly or whatever, but you ask the question because you're getting to know more about me more. Here's the other thing. All black people aren't the same. All white people aren't the same. All cops aren't the same. Nobody's the same. People are people. And God's desire is for us just to love people.
I agree.
When we can enjoy the culture that is around us, enjoy the people, when we stop looking at ourselves and love each other. Teens, I want to say this. You have the greatest opportunity to make this happen. You have the least amount of baggage connected to this out of anybody.
Yeah.
You have the ability right now in your schools to stop making it about black or white or Asian or this and start bringing things together and bring a change in this country through the love of Jesus that we've never seen. Christian young men and women, we need to stop thinking about things versus Republicans and Democrats and Libertarians and this. Stop thinking in political lines. Jesus did not die on the cross so we could be a political party. He died on the cross so we could love each other, so we could have a relationship with him, so we could find forgiveness and healing when we do experience trauma.
Yeah.
And God can bring us through anything. Well, teens, thanks so much for watching Serial Talks. We know this one was a little bit more serious, but we really wanted to give you some truth and some different perspectives about what's going on out there. Now, here's the deal. You may disagree with what I said, but guess what? That's okay. This is America. We're allowed to do that. You can disagree with what I'm saying. You can disagree with what your social media people are saying and what other political people are saying. You can disagree and have your own opinion. But here's what we don't want to disagree with: the Word of God. We want to make sure that our lives line up with what the Word of God says, because what God says is the truth, and He's the one that we follow. We love you guys.